Okay, today we're going to look at lesson 11 from section 2.2 in your textbook, and your learning objective is I can identify and write an equation of direct variation. Now, you may or may not remember talking about direct variation in Algebra 1, but it was in there when we started talking about linear functions and domain, range, all that, function rules. So we're going to look at it again today. This should be an easy, quick little lesson for you. The homework, I think, is just 10 problems. So it really shouldn't be that bad. As always, remember, I am going to move a little bit faster in the video than I would normally in person, but with a video, you have the opportunity to pause and rewind as you need. So just keep that in mind. You should have your notebook with you. Be ready to take notes, work out examples, and try practice problems. And today we're going to start with some vocab, as usual. So today's only vocabulary term is direct variation, because if we're going to write an equation of it, you need to know what it is. And it's just a relationship that can be represented by a function in the form y equals k times x. And k is our constant of variation. So basically that means you get y by multiplying x by some constant or some number, okay? And with direct variation, we're going to have a variety of different types of problems. So we're going to look at each type, and those should align precisely with the problems in your homework. The first type of problem that you're going to look at, it's probably worded a little bit different in Math Excel, but I was trying to write down the least amount of words possible in our notes. So basically, you're going to look at a function and decide if it's direct variation, and if your answer is yes, you have to find k. Okay, here are 3 examples. Let's look at number 1 together. So for it to be direct variation, it has to be in this form, y equals some number times x. So here we have y equals 3x. Is that direct variation? Yes. And it is. So what is k? K is that constant in front of x. So k equals 3. All right, take a look at number 2. Pause the video, give it a try. Okay, is this equation in the form y equals some number times x? No, it's not. It's x minus 7. Up here it says nothing about addition and subtraction, so that answer is no. Now, if we look at number 3, that one's a little bit different. We have 3y equals x. Now, for it to be direct variation, the y has to be all by itself. So we need to work on this one just a little bit. How can we get that 3 away from y? That's right. We can divide it, and if we do it to one side, we have to do it to the other. So that gives us y equals x over 3. Now, we can rewrite that as y equals 1/3 x. So now that we've rewritten it, is this direct variation? Is it y equals some number times x? Yes. And since it is, what does k equal? 1/3. Okay, our next 3 examples are a little bit different. Y is not by itself on either of these 3. So I'm going to work out number 4 with you, and then I want you to try 5 and 6. The problems like this in Math Excel are very, very, very similar. So you should be able to follow the examples here and do the same thing in Math Excel, because the only thing that's going to be different is the numbers. So looking at number 4, we need to get y by itself. So first, we're going to take care of this addition and subtraction. We're going to get this negative 4x to go to the other side. So how can we do that? It's negative, so we can add 4x. So we have 3y equals. Now 0 plus 4x is just 4x. Now we have 3 times y, so we're going to get rid of that by dividing by 3. So we have y equals 4/3 x. So that is direct variation, and so k equals 4/3. Okay, now pause the video, try 5 and 6, give it your best shot. If you get stuck, that's fine. You can work it out with me in just a second, but I do want you to pause the video and try it. Okay, number 5, let's move that 8x over, so it's negative, so we're going to add 8x to both sides. We get 2y equals 8x. We divide both sides by 2, and we get y equals 4x. So yes, that is direct variation, and k equals 4. Okay, our last one, let's get that x to the other side, so we're going to add 6x. We get y equals 6x, and we don't have anything else to do. Y is by itself, so the answer is yes, that is direct variation, and k equals 6. Okay, your next type of problem is a little bit different. You're going to be given a table, and you're going to have to look at the values and decide if y directly varies with x, and if it does, find k and write the function rule. So take just a second, pause the video, draw the tables for these 3 examples, and then we'll come back together and work them out. Okay, let's look at example number 1. We need to look at your x value and see how we get y. So what can we multiply 51 by to get 17? Now, you might be thinking of division. If you look at 63 and 21 and 66 and 22, then that might help you a little bit. That might spark something in your mind. And you might be thinking divide by 3. But we need to think along the lines of multiplication. So what's the same as multiplying, or what's the same as dividing by 3? It's multiplying by 1/3. So 51 times 1/3 is 17. 63 divided by 1, or multiplied by 1/3 is 21. And 66 multiplied by 1/3 is 22. So we're multiplying by the same thing every time. So the first part of our answer is yes. Yes, y varies directly with x. And we need to find k. So k is that number we're multiplying by each time. So in this case, it's 1/3. And then we need to write the function rule. So y equals your k value, which is 1/3, times x. So if you plug in each x value into your function rule, you should get, or I did that backwards. If you plug in each x value into your function rule, you should get the y value. So there are 3 parts to this answer: yes, k, and your function rule. All right? So now let's take a look at number 2. What can we multiply 2 by to get 8? It's 4. Can we multiply 4 by something to get 10? No, we could do times 2 plus 2, but we're not really supposed to do any addition or subtraction. And then 11 to 13, we could do times 1 plus 2, but again, that's got addition, and we don't want that. So are we multiplying by the same thing each time? No. So that means y does not vary directly with x. So our answer is no. All right. Now pause the video and give number 3 a try. See what you think. And then we'll check it together in just a second. Okay. What can we multiply 1 by to get 4? 4. Okay. So we multiply 1 by 4 to get 4. What can we multiply 3 by to get 12? 4. What can we multiply 8 by to get 32? And that's also 4. So does y vary directly with x? Yes. So we say yes. And what's K? It's 4. And so our equation or our function rule is y equals 4x. Okay, for your last type of problem, I just wrote out the directions or really the problem statement once, and then we'll just use that for a few examples because it's a sentence and I didn't want to write it down over and over. So you're supposing that y varies directly with x and y equals some number. So for number 1, that's y equals 6. When x equals blank. So again, so our first one, y equals 6 when x equals -2. Then you have to find x when y equals some number. So again, number 1, we're doing y equals -9. When you see these problems in Math Excel, your directions or your problem statement is going to have the numbers plugged in. Okay, and so I wanted you to see that structure, but I don't want to write the sentence down over and over, and I don't want you to have to do that either. Okay, so we're going to use these numbers, and we have to do a couple things here. First, we have to find K. So we're going to use the values that were given to find K. Then we're going to create our function rule, and we're going to solve for X. Okay, so follow along. There's a couple different things we're going to do, but it's not that difficult. All right, so we're going to use our function form, y equals k times x. All right, we know that y is 6 and x is -2. So I'm going to plug those values in. 6 equals k times -2. Now I need to solve for k. So I'm going to divide both sides by -2, and I get k equals -3. All right, so I've got k. Now, I'm going to come over here, and you might want to draw a little line. If that helps you stay organized, by all means, draw a little line. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to use y equals k times x again. This time, we know that y is 9. We know that k is -3, and we don't know what x is. Okay, so we're going to solve for x. So we have 9 equals -3x. We're going to divide by -3, and we get -3 equals x. Okay, so there your answer is x equals -3. And that's what you'll type into Math Excel. Okay, so here's example number 2. Pause the video and give it a try. See what you can do. And if you get stuck, you can always come back and work it out with me in just a minute. Okay, we're going to use that y equals k times x again. We know that y is 10. We don't know k, and we know that x is -5. So we need to solve for k. So divide both sides by -5, and we get k equals -2. All right, now I'm going to come over to the other side. I'm going to use that same equation, y equals k times x. We know y is 12. We know k is -2, and we don't know what x is. So we divide both sides by -2, and x equals -6. And so that's your answer. X is -6 when y is 12. Okay, here's one more example like this. Pause the video, give it a try, and then come back and check with me. All right, so y equals k times x. We know y is 8. We don't know k. X is -2. Solve for k. Divide both sides by -2. And we get -4 equals k. Come to the other side. We have y equals kx again. This time y is 24. K is -4. And x is, we don't know. So divide both sides by -4, and you get -6 equals x again. And that's what you'll plug in to Math Excel. Okay, our last example is very similar to what we've done in 1 through 3, but it's given to you in a context problem, a real-world application. So I didn't write out the full word problem, but I just took out the pieces that we need. So interest is $45 when the rate is 4%, and it wants you to find the interest when the rate is 5.5%. So this $45 is your Y. So 45, so your interest is 45 when the rate is 4%. So we don't know what K is, but we do know that the rate is 4%. So as a decimal, that's 0.04. Okay, you solve that for K by dividing both sides by that 4%. So K equals 1,125. Okay, now we're going to use K to find the interest when your rate is 5.5%. So this time we don't know what Y is, but we do know that K is 1,125, and we know that your rate is 5.5%, so that's 0.055. And so if you multiply those together, you get 61.875. But Math Excel asks you to round to the nearest cent. So if you're rounding to the nearest cent, that would be 61.88. So $61.88, and that's what you would type into Math Excel. All right. So that should cover all the problems in your homework. If you have questions, make sure you let me know. Reach out to me, email me, hit the Ask My Instructor button, whatever you need to do. But make sure you're working, make sure you finish the video, and feel free to pause and rewind as you need.